objection. Now, the way that this started and what happened to that author is they wrote an extensive story on the Sackler family. Now, you may recall that name because they're the ones behind OxyContin and a lot of the opioid crisis that's happened throughout the United States, even though they wouldn't tell you that. And they will probably send us a cease and desist after this airs because that's how they roll. So they leverage this platform to make their case. Basically, it's a platform for wealthy people to make a case and to try to change the narrative in the court of public opinion as to why they're not guilty. So they did this and they said, hey, author, you're on this thing. You have so-and-so X amount of time to respond or it's going to adjudicate. And we're like, wait, what? And we're like, well, wait, oh, Peter Thiel's behind it? Oh, that totally makes sense. Andrew, this story sounds ridiculous on its surface, but I just want to remind people how real this stuff is. So Aaron D'Souza is part of Peter Thiel's cult, which we're going to get to in a second, and has been for many, many, many years. And he believes, and he says this in writing in this article, that it's only the top 1% of people in the world that matter. The rest are just fodder. They don't really matter. They're to be extracted from and thrown under the bus. This is what this guy believes, and this is why he built this platform. It's hard to separate the theater of the absurd at this point, Andrew, but this story is 100% real. And the question we have to ask now is, if they started with The Hollywood Reporter, who are they going to come after next?
Do you, what it may seem like an asked and answered question, but what's the end game of all this? Is it just to consolidate kind of vertical integration of control?
I would say censorship, complete censorship. I mean, it's one way of thinking or it's no way of thinking. It's their way or it's not their way. You know, they're trying to push a narrative and we need to just get in line and believe what it is that they're saying instead of standing up and having our own voice. Little do they know that we're not going to sit back and just allow them to dictate what is happening here.
You know, Andrew, Juliana is so spot on, and I'll add this half in jest, but it will probably happen, is once we show up on objection, we will document that story and create our own documentary about the process of going through something like that, because I can guarantee you this, again, if they came for The Hollywood Reporter, don't think they ain't coming for you.
Yep.
Well, in a connected story, a leak exposed members of Peter Thiel's secretive dialogue society. More than 200 of the world's elites registered for a retreat whose agenda runs from panels on cult building and sex to prepping for World War III. An associated app offers matchmaking. This is bizarre. Help us understand.
Well, once again, from the theater of the absurd, Peter Thiel's actually been running this organization for 20 years, Andrew. And as people read this piece, and we actually have Carrie Donovan, special contributor to Rip from the Headlines, is actually going to publish a piece this weekend digging into the different connected pieces of this. But Thiel's ran this thing for years. And one of the promises that he made to people who joined was this information will never be public. It'll never be hacked. You'll never have to worry about it. And yet here we are with some names and connections that are at best very questionable. Now, Andrew, as people go through the story, they get an understanding. Some of the people and some of the leanings you're going to be led to believe. Now, Peter Thiel has masqueraded himself as a libertarian and a conservative and everything else, when in reality, he's a totalitarian. Another story for another time, so I don't end up on objection. That said, what is interesting here is that they have an event coming up in August in Ireland. And the founder of Pray.com is moderating a panel at this event called Build a Cult. Now, Andrew, I want everyone to think really hard about what I just said. Someone who purports to be a Christian, by all accounts, because of Pray.com, and a conservative, I guess, is going to go to this thing and moderate a panel on building a cult. Doesn't sound good.
What do you think Peter Thiel is ultimately trying to, I mean, you say, building a cult, and so there's going to be lots of those. What is Peter Thiel ultimately aiming for, in your view, with all of his efforts from tech and data surveillance to these odd dating apps?
Get ready, because he's going to answer it, and it's going to be really good. Go ahead.
Peter Thiel's plan, Andrew, I'm so glad that we have been the building blocks of putting this story together, and we've been tracking it closely. Peter Thiel is of the mind that he is part of a superclass. Now, he said this publicly. This isn't anything that we make up. His belief is that the masters of the universe should rule the world, and at the end of the day, you are God. Now, he purports to be a Christian, but at the end of the day, he gets a lot of passes. He is gay. okay, which is you can't do that. I mean, that doesn't really work in the kingdom, right? But he purports that this is the case. He's a Christian. He did a whole series on the Antichrist that was private, that went public. But logically, he believes that you are chattel. Okay, and you are to be controlled and surveilled, and you are useful until you're not. Interestingly enough, Andrew, if you look at the group that we just talked about, and you look at the work that's being done by Objection, isn't it interesting that all these people feel exactly the same way? Now, Andrew, we talked a couple of weeks ago about the fact that Peter Thiel bailed for Argentina, and on this show, we broke down very clearly why. Because what he's built has got people wrestling up, and he wants to sidestep any of the chaos, let his surveillance tools and everything else work the way they were intended, and then come back, stand on the rubble heap and say, we can rebuild with your labor and your time and no money, and then you'll be a serf. Because at the end of the day, what's it about? It's about the kingly class and the serf class. There are only going to be two if we don't continue to stand in the gap as watchmen.
Crazy.
And we need to remember, people do not rise above their worldview. If he believes you're going to become a god or you can be a god, then that belief, that fundamental, is driving everything that he is doing. I say that because it will segue us first to a break, and then when we come back to Faith Focus, we're talking about the Tower of Babel 2.0 here. And I've even mentioned this concept in years past. In fact, when I first started Culture Crossroads, it was a little podcast for three people out in the fields. And one of the first shows that I did was that we were trying to erase and replace God. Well, we're going to dig into Tower of Babel 2.0. What does that mean? What does it mean for us? And what can people of faith, Christians, be doing to bring truth to this? That is on the Faith Focus segment. It is next. You are watching Culture Crossroads. And welcome back to Culture Crossroads one more time. It's time for our Faith Focus segment. As I mentioned before the break, I want to talk about Tower of Babel 2.0. Now, the story of the Tower of Babel is not simply an ancient account about people building a very tall structure. It's a warning about what happens when human achievement becomes human worship. Genesis 11 tells us that the people said, "Let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name." That was the sin of Babel. It was not architecture. It was ambition without submission. Humanity wanted unity without God. We wanted progress without God, a future without God. They were not trying to merely reach the clouds. They were trying to take God's place. And thousands of years later, we're still building the tower. Only now the bricks look like server farms. The mortar is data. The tower is being constructed through artificial intelligence, genetic engine.
Attention, cancer victims who were in New York on or after 9/11. If you or a loved one were in Lower Manhattan during the 9/11 tragedy or during the 11 months afterward and were later diagnosed with any of these or other cancers, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. A $10 billion compensation fund is in place for these cancer victims. Do not wait to file your claim. Call now and speak with us. The call is confidential and free. Or reach us online at worldtradecenterfund.com.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all three major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever, every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
If you are exposed to asbestos, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
Families often face losing their homes or life savings just to pay the bills. If you or a loved one worked in these industries and were diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation to protect your family. At Rights and Claims, we've helped families recover over $1 billion to cover medical costs, lost wages, and more. Let us help you secure their future with the compensation you deserve. Call now.
800
Hearing, neural implants, the growing dream of merging human consciousness with machines. Some of Silicon Valley's most influential thinkers are no longer talking about technology merely helping human beings. They're talking about redesigning human beings. They imagine creating our own descendants, transferring consciousness into machines, escaping our biological limitations, and perhaps even conquering death itself. And none of that is hyperbole. This is not simply a technological vision. It is a theological claim. It says humanity doesn't need redemption. We need an upgrade. It says we don't need resurrection. We need better software. It says we don't need a savior. We need an engineer. This is the Tower of Babel 2.0. Different materials, same rebellion. You remember the serpent's original temptation in Genesis was that you could be like God. And that premise has never really changed. You can escape your limitations. You define your own truth. Create your own destiny. Conquer death. God's holding out on you. Become your own God. And now artificial, and I do want to be clear here, artificial intelligence by itself as a thing is not evil. It's a thing. It doesn't have a soul. Okay? A computer is a tool. An algorithm is a tool. Technology can heal, help us heal. It can educate, communicate. It can help improve human life. But a tool becomes dangerous when it becomes an object of our faith. The danger begins when we ask machines to give us what only God can provide. Truth, purpose, identity, wisdom, even eternal life. Jesus did not say, I will create the resurrection. He said, I am the resurrection and the life. Eternal life is not a technological puzzle waiting for Silicon Valley to solve. And death is not simply a hardware defect. Humanity's deepest problem is not that our bodies wear out. It's that sin has separated us from God. And no algorithm can forgive sin. No server can redeem a soul. No neural implant can make a person righteous. And no machine, no matter how intelligent, can replace the one who created intelligence itself. And there's another danger here as well. When a small group of enormously wealthy and powerful people controls the systems that shape information, communication, employment, government, and eventually perhaps human biology, we have to ask, who controls the tower? Who defines truth? Who decides what kind of humanity should be allowed to survive? Who decides which beliefs are dangerous, which people are obsolete, and which human characteristics need to be redesigned? One computer scientist offered a chilling warning. If you create a God and you own that God, you become a dictator. That's the inevitable destination when man attempts to manufacture divinity. He does not create God, he creates an idol. And the people who control the idol gain power over everyone who worships it. So when people say they have a belief that they can become God, what they really want to be, they want to be worshipped by the world. They want to be an idol for everyone else. At Babel, humanity believed it was building something that would reach heaven. But Scripture says God came down to see it. Think about that. The tower seemed so enormous to man, and man was but yet it was still so small that God had to come down to examine it. Now that's the proper perspective for every human empire, every technological revolution, and every billionaire promising to reinvent the future. Humanity can build impressive things, but we cannot build our way onto God's throne. We can create machines that imitate conversation, that produce art, that analyze disease, that process more information than any human mind could, faster than any human mind can. But intelligence is not wisdom. Information is not truth. Longevity is not eternal life, and technological power is not divine authority. The modern Tower of Babel may rise higher than the original Babel. It may process more data. It may consume enough energy to power entire cities. It may convince millions of people that salvation is just one more breakthrough away. But the final lesson will remain the same. Man cannot erase God by ignoring him. He cannot replace God by imitating him, nor can he become God by building something more powerful than himself. Human beings are not obsolete machines awaiting an upgrade. We are image bearers of God who, if we do not belong to Christ, are in need of redemption. Silicon Valley promises transcendence through technology. The gospel offers resurrection through Jesus Christ. One tells us to escape our humanity. The other tells us why humanity is sacred. One says we can build our way to heaven. The other says heaven came down to rescue us. Babel is still under construction. The only question is whether we will climb the tower or if we will bow before the throne of the Almighty. I want to bring back in our friends R.C. Williams and Juliana Ormond for some final comments here as we get ready to wrap up. My friends, what say you?
I just want to say there's one foundation of truth, and it's the Bible. It has to be the foundation of truth, okay? Because they've already created artificial intelligence gods. They've already named these artificial intelligence gods. They've already done services with these artificial intelligence gods. Peter Thiel is 100% behind all of this. We, the people, the middle class, we, the people that believe in a Heavenly Father, need to come together and understand that this is a spiritual battle that we're in, and it's our job to be picking up our sword and doing the things that we need to be doing here on earth. This is a real war. I don't think people understand. I mean, when they could change truth, like when President Trump had to come out and say there's only one man and one woman, like we can't have all these different sex genders. I mean, when you get away from the foundation of truth, you can create all these fantasy worlds and then tell the people who believe in the truth that they have to walk in that fantasy and they have to, tiptoe in that fantasy. I'm not interested in that world. That is not my culture. This is my culture. This is what we have to go back to with our culture.
Micah 6:8 says we are supposed to seek to do justice, to be humble, to love mercy. And so inasmuch as it does depend on us, we do want freedom and liberty to persist. We do want an America that is good to be around. We want these kinds of influences and certainly the church's influence in the world. But there are certain barriers and boundaries that God has placed that no matter how hard we try, we can never fully break. And whenever we do, it only creates disaster because again, we cannot be God. We are created by him. It's just like, when I talk to my kids, I say, when we bake a batch of cookies, that cookie really doesn't have a choice what it's going to be. The baker is making the cookie.
That's right.
There is no way that cookie can jump out of the oven or jump off the baking sheet and go anywhere that the baker doesn't want it to go or be or have any ingredients in it that the baker doesn't want to put in it. We, as God's creation, we are the same. We are who God created us to be. Now, we can reject God, and that means certain things, or we can receive him, and that means certain things. And what we want to do on the show, the prime directive of this program, is to point everything that we talk about into the light of Christ, and through the light of the truth that we read in God's word. And so that's why we call the Balls and Strikes the way we do. That's why we don't make as many friends in the mainstream as maybe we would like, or that might be, nice for the pocketbook, what have you. But God's truth is more important than that, and we sincerely and genuinely believe that. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here doing this. And so, anyway, RC, you've been kind of quiet. I'll give you the last word here.
Blessed are the peacemakers, not the peacekeepers. The peacemakers, one to grow on.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Culture Crossroads for RC and Juliana, and for me, Andrew Southwick. I want to thank you for being with us on this episode of Culture Crossroads. Remember, it's the truth that sets us free, and the truth will keep us free. Until next time, so long, John 1-5.
So Juliana, CPAC has been an incredible experience for us. And yesterday, we had a conversation that I think gave us a lot of validation that we were on the right track covering topics that make people generally uncomfortable.
Exactly.
Okay. Joining us on the Watchmen Brief is Bailey Templeton. Bailey, welcome to the show. Bailey is with America's Missing Foster Children. So Bailey, as we dive in here, give people a bit of background on you and how you came to this point, and then we want to get into some of what you found out and what's been happening with you.
Absolutely. So my name is Bailey Templeton. I am a homeschooling mom of 3 boys from Illinois. And I have just had a heart for foster children because my mother was a foster child. I was also a foster child, and it's kind of been a systemic generational problem to my family. So what I started to do is file FOIA requests to ask some questions and figure out if there were missing children. We all know that there's a missing children epidemic. There's been child sex trafficking discussions in all levels of the media. And I wanted to figure out what was happening to our foster kids here in America.
So, you know, from the rap stage, they were talking about child trafficking, and they were actually calling it child slavery. I mean, that's what it is. It's slavery. So your background is your son was kidnapped?
Yes.
Is that correct? Can you please unpack that for us?
Yeah, I can do that. So back in 2024, my son was diagnosed with cancer. And as any mother would, I wanted a second opinion to make sure that that's exactly what was going on with my son. I wanted to feel comfortable with his treatment, with his doctors. I love my son. I've homeschooled him. I've spent his entire life he's been with me. And when you're on Medicaid, the medical mafia doesn't really like that. You don't get to have a second opinion on things like this. So 25 days after his diagnosis, Child Protective Services falsified a report to the state's attorney and took my child from me in the middle of the night.
Wow. How old was he at the time?
He was 9 years old.
How do you react to that when you see authorities coming into your house and literally violating your sovereignty and taking your child?
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now, you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
Inogen systems are so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen portable oxygen system for 30 days risk-free. Call us right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 800-313-6867. 800-313-6867.
Hey guys, you know Juliana and I and what we do, so let's be honest. The healthcare system has become a maze of red tape and sky-high costs. That's why we want you to check out Altrua Health Share. That's a community of people helping people. Now, Altrua isn't insurance. It's a faith-based health sharing community where members cover one another's medical needs, not corporate profits. Okay, important stuff. You'll get access to over 1 million providers nationwide, and you can save thousands of dollars a year based on what you're dealing with now. It's time to take control of your healthcare. So here's what we need you to do. We need you to go to altruahealth.org/Watchmen. That's altruahealth.org/Watchmen. And when you get there, use the promo code FREEDOM100 for an additional discount. Or you can give them a call and discuss the options. 512-717-4639. That's 512-717-4639. altruahealth.org/Watchmen. Make sure to tell them the Watchmen sent you.
He had a good business, solid product, good people.
So I had an intention that this was going to happen. I have friends in the holistic realm who also lost their child when their child was diagnosed with cancer. And about a week prior, one of my friends had just lost their child. So we kind of had a feeling that it was coming our direction too. And you try to prepare any way you can, but a lot of people don't even know that this is a possibility. So in the moment, I knew my constitutional rights. I knew the authority that we have as citizens, and I kept them outside of my home because they didn't have a warrant. But they stayed on my property for 7.5 hours without a warrant, circling my house. I lived on a farm in the middle of nowhere, no neighbors, telling me, yelling through the windows that I was killing my child.
What?
Yes. And I had 2 other kids at home with me, my other 2 sons, and they were only there for my 1 sick child.
Oh my God. Okay, so that led you, okay, So they took your child. How long before that you got him back?
They locked him in 3 different hospitals for 140 days, even had an ankle bracelet on him. And they refused to let him go outside for fresh air. He couldn't see anybody. It was a very restricted list of who was allowed to visit him. All the while, he went through 26 rounds of chemotherapy and multiple surgeries. I've got pictures that would just break your spirit on how he looked in their care. And I was only allowed for the first 2.5 months to see him for 8 hours a week. And they would do these crazy things, like before a surgery, they would take him early during a visit with me and scare him before he would leave and say awful things to him, so he was terrified when they'd put him under. And that was really bothersome to me. I feel like the parents should be allowed to comfort their child through that. But in the hands of the Child Protective Services, it's not the best interest of the child anymore.
So that led you to decide you needed to run, huh?
Yes. So I ran for the House of Representatives in Illinois, basically out of desperation after filing FOIAs and not getting my voice out enough. I talked on podcasts. I would talk to elected officials, my federal representative, state representative, telling them, hey, I've got this data that's not okay. We need to do something about it. When I asked the question of how many foster kids did you lose, they kind of back and forth on the answer with me. I got the media involved, 2 different news sources, and they lied. Between all of our documents, the numbers don't line up. But at the end of the day, about 3 months into this process, they said 193 foster children went missing the year they held my son in the hospital. And while holding him in the hospital, they amputated his leg without my permission.
So they amputated his leg, and there was no need to amputate his leg. Is that right?
I can't speak as a medical professional, but pathology agreed that we needed a second opinion before the surgery took place.
Okay, so I know this is like crazy to even think that the government could come into your home, take your kid, make him go through chemotherapy, amputate his leg, right? And then you're sitting there going, well, how do I, combat this? And obviously you're not the only one that this has happened to.
Right. Luckily for me, I think that God really took the reins in this situation. I had to pay $10,000 to have a doctor testify on my behalf. And it just showed up. There was a family who donated it, and we were able to do that. My lawyer was working with me very well, where we could do payments as he still fought as hard as he could. So it was a very expensive experience, and they kind of go after children on Medicaid. The parents can't afford to fight back, and you get a gag order in the process. I wasn't allowed to talk about anything. Family court is fully confidential, but then they can also order you that if you speak to anyone, you'll never get your child back. This is happening across the states. And then you have this issue of these children going missing. Were they wrongfully taken, their parents' rights terminated, and then sex trafficked? We need answers.
I want to go back a second, because this kind of, so Bailey, I understand correctly that CPS basically ran a psychological operation against you and your family. In what world, and I know how this works, whatever the name is, it's always the opposite. They do it with legislation, they don't think. In what world does it make sense that CPS runs a psychological operation against a mom and her kids and says things like that? Like, what did you conclude the reasoning was for them even doing this to you?
I feel like it's a lot of retaliation for the work that I was doing before my child was taken. About 3-4 weeks before my son was taken, I had called out one of my foster care workers from my childhood for placing me with a pedophile. And I'd called her out by name, and I'd also called out my governor for his association with Jeffrey Epstein. And at the time, I had 125,000 followers on TikTok.
This is criminal, they're like a gang coming after you like that because you were exposing them, in other words, is what you're saying. Right. Oh, you're a real danger. You're a real threat. You know what? I like that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So when did you finally make the decision to run that?
The day after my 30th birthday. So in August of last year, I had contacted everybody about these missing children numbers. I also exposed the Medicaid expenses. In Illinois alone, there was a 129,000% increase on Medicaid expenses for foster children. And a lot of it was going to inpatient hospital stays. And in that, I saw what was happening to my son. 140 days. You can imagine the fraud that they could manipulate through that, running the child for tests that he never got, or putting him through extra unnecessary testing to gain that money. There's a Nuremberg Code for a reason, but they're violating it with the signature of a judge and a guardian administrator in each state and testing on foster children. Fauci already did this in New York with 14,000 foster kids on the AIDS medication. They've been taking children for research studies, and it has a lot to do with blood type. And I don't speak without knowing, and I've done enough research to know that this is what's happening, which is why they don't want me to speak, why they made sure my race was stacked against me. With no money and 2 people working this campaign, we still got 10% of the vote.
Wow.
I believe, and we talked yesterday about this too, we have a reputation for telling uncomfortable stories. That's the ministry. That's been our call. And we always say, come what may. It is disturbing to me more and more every day that we're hearing stories like yours from different segments where someone makes the decision to stand up against something that is fundamentally and absolutely wrong. And the minute that they do, this established order, this Leviathan that protects itself, because Fauci should have been in jail 40 years ago with AZT, right?
Yep.
Will come after you. And a lot of people refuse to believe that this even happens. But once again, we have a case of one person making a conscious choice to say, this is wrong. You did it for you, but you did it for everyone else so it doesn't happen to them.
Yeah.
And I think more than anything else, this is what scares the establishment, is that we are concerned about ourselves, but we're more concerned about the future. I don't want this to happen to anyone else, so I'm going to use the bullhorn that I have.
Right. My 9-year-old son, after one of the times at a very reputable children's hospital in this area, not in Texas, but in this lower South area, they took my child for a sedation and they physically injured him. I pressed assault charges and the state's attorney would not go with the assault. But he asked me, he said, can you please make sure this doesn't happen to another child? This was a 9-year-old. So I stressed every avenue I could, even throwing myself into the political realm to try to find like-minded people to help us fix this. In the time frame that my son's been back since May of 2024, how many other children have experienced what he's going through? And talking to your child through a tablet that you snuck into the hospital to speak to him while he's being tortured in a hospital, it's something you don't forget, and it's something that stays with you. I would never do anything to harm myself, and I will keep continuing to do this until we expose what's happening here.
Abuse of children for money.
Right.
That's what it is.
Under the guise of best interest.
I appreciate the fact that you're running because I'm a huge advocate for children. Because it's like what I went through, 50 years ago, the children shouldn't be going through it. And it's only gotten worse to the point where we're chemically castrating little boys. How did that become okay?
I've actually exposed that in the Illinois foster care too by filing FOIAs. I asked them what ages, what services, and how much money are you spending. But they redacted age 11. Age 11 is a pivotal point for this gender transitioning in that care. They will not give me the data. And that's through HFS in Illinois and DCFS, who no longer responds to any of my questions. So even though FOIA is constitutionally allowed, protected, and required, they are not responding to me because they want me to take them to court. If I do, I have to pay for it. They will lose because they have to tell me this data. But it's just a power struggle to get the answers on what's happening to these children.
If you are exposed to asbestos, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
Families often face losing their homes or life savings just to pay the bills. If you or a loved one worked in these industries and were diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation to protect your family. At Rights and Claims, we've helped families recover over $1 billion to cover medical costs, lost wages, and more. Let us help you secure their future with the compensation you deserve. Call now.
800-895-0489.
The average cost of mesothelioma treatment can exceed $400,000. Families often face losing their homes or life savings just to pay the bills. If you or a loved one worked in these industries and were diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation to protect your family. At Rights and Claims, we've helped families recover over $1 billion to cover medical costs, lost wages, and more. Let us help you secure their future with the compensation you deserve.
Call 800-895-0489.
When you choose Patriot Mobile, you're not just picking a wireless provider. You're choosing a company that shares your values. It's easy to switch, and you can keep your number, your phone, and most importantly, your values. With Patriot Mobile, you get the power of nationwide coverage on all 3 major networks. That means wherever life takes you, we've got you covered on the same reliable networks you already know and trust. And when you need us, we're here for you right here at home. Our customer service is 100% US-based because we believe that support should come from people who understand you and your values. At Patriot Mobile, you're not just another call, you're a priority. In today's world, where you spend your money matters more than ever. Every dollar is a vote for the kind of future you want to build. Join the thousands of Americans making a difference with every call, every text, and every connection. Choose a company that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
And that's one state.
They've weaponized the entire system against the people so that we can't fight this criminal cabal of what's happening to us, the American people, and to our children. And I really appreciate the mama bears like you that are standing up and saying, not on my watch. This is just not happening. You know, we, the church, we've seceded ground. You know, our Father told us to take territory, not to sit back and to allow these things to happen. But now we've got politicians and the government that doesn't want to talk about the word grooming. Everything they did was grooming. What they did to your child was horrible. But we're going to be talking about it more because that needs to be exposed.
Right. As for the grooming, I've learned through workers in Illinois DCFS that if a child mentions anything about feeling like they're a different gender, immediately nobody is allowed to speak to them but the LGBTQ advocate that they're assigned. Immediately. No one's allowed to talk them out of it, to tell them maybe there's other ideas. You hand them to an advocate for the LG whatever community, and they take it from there.
Wow. That's like legalized kidnapping. It is legalized kidnapping. Okay, so what are you running for specifically?
I was running for the 94th House District. The primary already happened. I got 10% of the vote, but we're going to come back in 2028 stronger, louder, and with more data.
And then what do you think you're going to be running for specifically?
For the House of Representatives in the state. Yeah, there's just certain ways. I am the state organizer for You Are the Power, Spike Cohen's nonprofit company, where we go in and stop constitutional overreach. And I'm hoping very much that I can finally help families in Illinois. I've returned children in other states back to their homes, but because of the laws in Illinois, we cannot do it. So we have to get in there. We either have to find allies in the House and the Senate. We have an awful governor, so it won't even pass at that level anyways. I don't know what to do but to keep advocating wherever and as loudly as I can. And if they don't have a voice in the House, I'll be their voice.
Wow.
So Bailey, I don't know if you're set up to accept donations. How can people support you? And if you're not, then we'll figure out a way to do that. But where can people find more information? How can they support you in the work that you're doing?
Sure. You can Google my name, Bailey Templeton, and you'll see a lot of news stories of what I've covered with Center Square and Washington Examiner exposing all of these things. You can look up BaileyTempleton.nationbuilder.com. That was my campaign website. My FOIA work's on there, and there's also a page to teach you how to do a FOIA yourself. I need someone in every state to be able to file this paperwork, but it's a very scary thing to do because once you file, they will try to take your children if you have some, because they came back for all 3 of mine once I uncovered this investigation.
I think from the Watchmen Action side, one of the things we'd like to do is set up a separate fundraiser option for you to try to help you out. To do what you guys need to do. So if people go to watchmenaction.org, you'll see the button for this. And all of those proceeds, anything that you donate through us, is going to go directly to Bailey and the work that she's doing, because we're in a space right now where if we don't take care of each other, this isn't going to get done. And so I encourage our audience to look at the work that Bailey's done. And if you're so moved, please support her. And we will share those resources with her so that she can continue her work. She's got to get to 49 other states. Like, this is real, because you may not be looking for a fight, but a fight is looking for you. And this is one of the brave warriors who's out in front, taking the slings and the arrows and coming on to tell you how difficult this is. Bailey, I'm very happy that you joined us. I am equally disturbed about what I heard, and I hope that other people are too, so that they get moving. Thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Guys, we are live at CPAC 2026. We're at the Gaylord in Grapevine, Texas. We're in the Made Right Creator Suite. Go to watchmenaction.org to learn more. We'll be right back.
Is going to join us in just a moment. But before he does, exciting news and announcement. All things Watchmen Action can be found at watchmenaction.org. I think you already know that, but we're super excited to share that the next phase of Watchmen Action as a nonprofit ministry is on its way. We're going to expand our Watchmen Action clubs and our training program to get as many of you ready to advocate and then ready to lead and train others that are ready to advocate. That is in process right now. We will have special announcements and additional information for you here shortly. The other exciting announcement for Juliana and I, if you go to wearethewatchmen.org, that's wearethewatchmen.org, guess what you're going to see? All the information and background that you want on Juliana and I, every time that we're on in the media, the exciting announcement about the 24/7 Watchmen Action Network in partnership with our friends at Q Broadcast, and also broadcasting live on Roku TV, Tubi TV, and Pluto TV. You can now find all of that information, in addition to our great sponsors like Altrua Health Share, all in one place. Just go to wearethewatchmen.org. That's wearethewatchmen.org. Also, make sure to check out our publications, Sherloc Exposes / Rip from the Headlines, and We Are the Watchmen Weekly. Now, you can find that information at wearethewatchmen.org as well. It'll take you straight to the newsletters, and you can get all the information that you need. All right, when we come back, Josh Sluter from Altrua Health Share is going to join us to talk about what's going on with health care and health share and all the great stuff that Altrua has to offer. You're watching the Watchmen Brief. Stay tuned.
He had a good business, solid product, good people. He just couldn't figure out why growth had stalled. Sherlock found the buyers he didn't know were looking. Now he knows exactly where to go next. Learn more at investinanswers.com.
She sat in the driveway and thought about the drive. 45 minutes each way. Half a day gone. Then she remembered there was another way. Board-certified provider, same day, right there in the driveway. She never started the engine. 360phi.com.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Watchmen Brief. This is R.C. Williams, excited at this time to bring up our good friend, Josh Sluter from Altrua Health Share. Sir, welcome to the Watchmen Brief.
Hey, RC, thanks a lot for having me. Looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, Josh, it's great to have you on. You know, we were talking off the air before we came on about how exciting it's been for us to have Altrua as a partner and how much we've learned and even talking to people about what Altrua Health Share does. So why don't we start here? Let's give people a baseline understanding of the differences between traditional healthcare and what Altrua Health Share does.
Yes, sir. So, first and foremost, Altrua Health Share is a faith-based healthcare sharing ministry. There's a number of different things that set us apart. But whenever I'm speaking about Altrua to, the general public, one of the things that I really like to start on is cost. So, in comparison to your commercial insurance companies, a lot of the BUCAs, the health share in general, but specifically Altrua Health Share in this situation, our contribution amounts and the cost to the individual or to the family is significantly low.
Watchmen Action Training provides a masterclass for advocating. In less than a day, you and your group are ready to win the battles that matter most. Visit watchmenaction.org to learn more.
If you are exposed to asbestos, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
Families often face losing their homes or life savings just to pay the bills. If you or a loved one worked in these industries and were diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation to protect your family. At Rights and Claims, we've helped families recover over $1 billion to cover medical costs, lost wages, and more. Let us help you secure their future with the compensation you deserve. Call now.
800-895-0489.
The average cost of mesothelioma treatment can exceed $400,000. Families often face losing their homes or life savings just to pay the bills. If you or a loved one worked in these industries and were diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation to protect your family. At Rights and Claims, we've helped families recover over $1 billion to cover medical costs, lost wages, and more. Let us help you secure their future with the compensation you deserve.
Call 800-895-0489.
The average cost of mesothelioma treatment can exceed $400,000. Families often face losing their homes or life savings just to pay the bills. If you or a loved one worked in these industries and were diagnosed with mesothelioma, you may be entitled to compensation to protect your family. At Rights and Claims, we've helped families recover over $1 billion to cover medical costs, lost wages, and more. Let us help you secure their future with the compensation you deserve.
Call 800-895-0489.
Before you buy a stock, it helps to know what the legends would say. Investornator scores it against 8 legendary investor playbooks. One clear answer, backed by real data. Investornator.com.
Than that of what they would experience in the marketplace with another traditional healthcare solution. There's a lot of other things that I can speak to. I'll touch real quick, and then we can deep dive any of them if you want. Altrua HealthShare has an open network for members to be able to go to any provider that they want to. But then we also have an in-network option through a relationship that we've created with the First Health Network, just because there are consumers out there that are really used to having access to their providers and facilities through a network, because a lot of them are coming out of that traditional insurance space. And so as they're going through their healthcare journey and as they're stepping into HealthShare, there are some things that we do want to make similar for them, just so that way they can navigate it really quickly. But, you know, for me, whenever I look at what differentiates us from not just those in the market, but also compared to traditional insurance, is we're much more affordable. Our discounts are significantly better. Our member experience is better. Whenever you're a consumer of a HealthShare, specifically Altrua, you're not just another number, you're a part of our family. And you get to participate in a membership that really is in alignment with the values that most of our consumers, if not every single, hopefully all of our consumers have, which is pro-life, making sure that the members are at the middle of the membership and not the shareholders. HealthShare kicks out the shareholders and doesn't distribute profits to anybody. Instead, HealthShare goes to sharing on the medical needs that the members generate. And Altrua is an amazing product simply because they are technologically advanced and continuing to work towards making the member experience better. And we do a great job listening to the voice of our members in order to do so.
So Josh, this is great. And you mentioned something during your answer that I want to continue on because I think it's important. So you mentioned that you've partnered up for those who are working to make the transition from traditional healthcare, whether it's Big Blue. I won't go into a number of them because I don't think we need to. But, you know, they're making the transition for maybe a traditional healthcare provider. And they want some assurances, maybe if they can keep their current care provider, whatever the case may be. Or in my instance, coming from California, a large firm out there was pretty much an all-in-one. Like you could get everything you ever wanted done with your health, eye, dental, all of that stuff in one place, in one shot. So for someone who has been or become accustomed to that system, how do we bridge the gap from there to what Altrua will provide?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's one that we get frequently. And one of the things that we aim to do, and we do our best to be consistent with at Altrua, is making sure that the members have us as their advocate every step of the way. So whenever you have people coming out of traditional insurance, like you had referenced a moment ago, they're not alone. They have other members they can talk to. They've got our member services team that they can talk to, and Altrua puts out a lot of educational material for the members so that way they know how to interact with their providers, how to work with the Altrua HealthShare membership opposed to what they're coming out of. A lot of people even come to us having never had any sort of healthcare coverage before. And so what we try to do is really communicate at a level that the members can understand, and that's really practical. As we know, there's a lot of products that we're consumers of, and sometimes whenever we need help, they're talking up here whenever we're like, hey, we don't understand your processes, the inner workings. Like, I'm a consumer, I need you to communicate to me from my level. And that's what Altrua has really done. So whenever somebody is making the transition over, I always encourage them, utilize our member services, contact Altrua directly so that way we can walk through you with any situation that you or your family is going through. But, you know, to the other point, we do our best to make sure that yes, we're aiming to change healthcare, but we also want to be able to have a process that members and consumers are already, semi-accustomed to, with some differences in there, because every member of Altrua HealthShare is not insured. Since Altrua is not insurance, they're a self-pay patient, and that really does open up much more for us to do on the member's behalf, and then even the member on their own behalf. And so what we've done is really created a comprehensive process that allows the consumer to walk through their healthcare path without having a bunch of blind spots.
So Josh, thank you for sharing that. One of the things that we see in the news a lot, whether it's X or whatever news feed you're on social media wise, is this trend of people having traditional healthcare, health insurance. They go for an appointment or to pick up a prescription, or they have a service done. They look at the bill and the number's just like ridiculously astronomical. And then they ask the question, so if I pay cash for this, what's the price? And it goes down dramatically. So based on what you've just shared with me, would Altrua be in a position to maybe be an advocate for us if we're trying to discuss the cash only pricing, because it's health share versus health care? I'm curious as to how that would work.
Yes, sir, absolutely. And one of the ways that we do that, and there are a number of ways that we do, but our frontline team, which is our concierge team, is really focused on those situations, so that if a member is at a provider or facility location, before their service or at the time of service, or even if they're dealing with a situation after the time of service, our concierge team is there to advocate on that member's behalf, be the front lines, and they're there to deal directly with the provider on the member's behalf, so that way we can keep our members in the fight of life doing what it is that they need to, whether it be doing their job, providing for their family, whether it be showing up for their kids in whatever way that they need to, or the number of other things that life throws at us. Our job at Altrua is to make sure that we can go advocate on behalf of the members and keep them doing what their normal flow is with life. One of the things that Altrua really does pride itself in is eliminating surprise billing, or what the general consumer would know as balance billing. And through the ability of negotiating on behalf of our members who are self-pay patients, we're able to average a significant discount all the way up to 100% sometimes, but with an average of around 65 to 73%. And so by leveraging our provider relationships, creating new provider relationships, and then ensuring that the members have a great experience and can continue going back to those providers, we're able to make sure that if a situation happens, it's not one that continues to happen and repeats. So typically if a situation arises, we like it to be a one-time resolution, so that way the member's care path moving forward can be seamless.
So Josh, thank you for that. One of the things that we encounter, we teach senior citizens basically to be tech savvy as part of our ministry. And a question that's come up on something like this is, you have people who are older and obviously their health needs are increased, and they are more concerned about the security that comes with being able to get seen and stuff like that. So in a world where maybe they're dealing with Medicare or they've got some type of other policy, but they're like, you know what? I'm still kind of paying through the nose here, and I'd like some help or to understand alternatives. How would that work?
It's really a big thing that we're dealing with at Altrua right now, is making sure that those members that have been on the membership for a significant amount of time and then they become eligible for a program like Medicare. We want to make sure, hey, yes, go over to Medicare, but if there's anything that Altrua HealthShare can do for you through membership or through advocacy, we definitely want to be, for lack of better terms, that gap fill solution for them. A lot of the senior citizens that are out there and just people who have healthcare plans in general, there's a lot of gaps there. And because Altrua does such a great job of covering our members and the membership 360 degrees, there are situations and times there where if somebody does have a Medicare product, or if somebody has another, minimum essential product, Altrua can come alongside that individual. They can be on the membership as well, and they can leverage the share power as well as the membership in those situations where that other product, whether it be Medicare or another, is not able to have their back. Because as we know, those plans are limited, and Altrua would be secondary in that situation. But if a member has something like a Medicare or another product, and then they have a medical need that comes through that may not be eligible for that other product, well, then Altrua HealthShare, of course, is going to apply the membership guidelines, but then we'll share appropriately. So it's a great solution for people that are on Medicare and other products. It's also a great solution for somebody that wants to use Altrua HealthShare as their only healthcare solution.
So, Josh, for those who prefer alternative care, which is a big thing right now, right? Because there's the sick care system, and then there's actually healthy care, or let's say preventative maintenance or stuff like that. How does that work in the Altrua universe?
It's a great thing to know that Altrua has created a membership where individuals and family members who are a part of Altrua can really be in the healthcare path that they choose is best for their family. And like I tell people, not all health shares are created equal. They're all a little bit different. So are all the health share members. And so if you look at the Altrua health share membership, we've got members all around the country at all different stages in their life. And some have had sicknesses before and some haven't. But one of the common things that we see is there is in every demographic and every location a set of individuals or families that really do want to follow the care path that you were describing a moment ago, whenever it comes to healthy living, whenever it comes to naturopathic, homeopathic sort of care. And they're really doing their best to be proactive. And so as their health share partner, we want to join next to them and make sure that as they're being proactive, we're taking a proactive approach with them as well. So we do encourage individuals and families to make sure that if there's a specific care path that they want to follow, a specific type of provider that they...
Attention veterans and military families. If you're between the ages of 50 and 80, you may qualify to review your final expense coverage options. Many veterans believe that the VA will cover all of their funeral costs, but unfortunately, in many cases, VA burial programs only cover a portion of the expense. And today, the average funeral with burial can cost around $8,000 or more. Don't leave your loved ones facing unexpected bills. Right now, LifeCare is helping veterans and their families learn about final expense insurance options that may help cover funeral costs, medical bills, and other end-of-life expenses. With a quick call, you can find out if you qualify for affordable whole life insurance designed to help protect your family from these costs. In many cases, no medical exam is required, no lengthy health questionnaires, and coverage decisions can be made quickly. Call now to review your final expense coverage options. Call 800-519-1427. That's 800-519-1427.
Attention, cancer victims who were in New York on or after 9/11. If you or a loved one were in Lower Manhattan during the 9/11 tragedy or during the 11 months afterward and were later diagnosed with any of these or other cancers, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. A $10 billion compensation fund is in place for these cancer victims. Do not wait to file your claim. Call now and speak with us. The call is confidential and free. Or reach us online at worldtradecenterfund.com.
Watchmen Action Training provides a masterclass for advocating. In less than a day, you and your group are ready to win the battles that matter most. Visit watchmenaction.org to learn more.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks can be a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen, portable oxygen therapy that moves with you.
With my Inogen, now I'm able to do the things that I've
want to be seen at. We're going to make sure that the membership that we recommend for them to be on is going to be one that supports that. And if somebody is on the membership, and let's say that they're on our Diamond membership and their care path changes because of an event that happens, we've got other memberships as well as the MyShare product that allows us to customize a membership plan for that individual or for that family that really does support the care path that they're going forth and for their family.
Most of us have something we have been quietly managing, hoping it resolves, telling ourselves we will deal with it next week. Board-certified providers are available today from your home, private, thorough, and licensed in your state. Stop putting it off. 360phi.com. Most growing businesses are making seven-figure decisions on gut feel and assumptions. The biggest companies in the world don't operate that way. Neither should you. Sherloc gives you market intelligence they pay six figures for. We find your buyers before your competitors do. Visit investinanswers.com to learn more.
So Josh, as we go through this and as Juliana and I answer questions with people when they see that you guys are a supporter of what we do with Watchmen Action and with the show, it is good to hear all of these things and to have some context. The other thing that I'm excited about is I think we're seeing a shift. There's like this re-education process for so many people, because now I feel like the rubber has kind of met the road, for lack of a better term, with traditional healthcare, and people are kind of getting that nasty surprise that's inside when it kind of gets out of control. So on that note, I do want to transition and talk a bit more about Altrua Health Share as an organization. Now, you guys have been around for a while, and you and your dad and your family have been in and around the business for many years. Give us some background on you guys and how we ended up at Altrua being a leader in the health share space.
Yes, sir. So, Altrua is a fun story to tell. Altrua has been around and sharing in members' medical needs for about 30 years now, and we're definitely not stopping. We're only increasing the reach that we have. And one of the things that I get most excited about whenever I talk about Altrua Health Share is not necessarily just the health share product that Altrua has, but it's the ministry component. And so whenever you ask about our history and how we came to be, my father, Randy Sluter, was negotiating on medical bills for some other health shares. And whenever he was doing that, he really started increasing their member experience and obtaining great discounts. And whenever Altrua came to him to see if he would want to participate in a way of leadership with their organization, he was able to step into that role and then deploy what he had learned through medical bill negotiations across the membership. And so in doing that, it really comes from a ministerial heart that my dad and my late mother had, which was not just to share in individuals and families' medical needs, and not just to discount them as well, but to have an impact on the community that they were in and also the community that their members are in. So Altrua does have Altrua Ministries, which is really the foundation and what everything with the health share is built off of. So we go in as Altrua Ministries, and we aim to share in ineligible medical needs on behalf of members that are struggling through hard situations. We go in after times of trauma and rebuild homes, like after the Texas floods. We go out on rescue efforts. There's a number of other nonprofits and ministries that we do donate to because we feel like their missions are in alignment with ours, which are, things like revision of cleft palates that children are born with, helping to feed those that don't have food, helping to provide education for those that need education, and then same thing with clothes. We do a lot of clothes donations and working with ministries that are really having high impact in their communities. With Altrua being a 30-year health share, there's been a whole lot that we've been through different elections, through the COVID pandemic, through times of economic, downswings and upturns. And Altrua has always done a great job of being the tip of the spear for their membership and the members that are coming on, to make sure that no matter what's going on in the country, no matter what's going on in the communities, Altrua is a steady voice and a steady and consistent solution for them, no matter what it is that they're navigating. So whenever I think about the history of Altrua, it's been one of perseverance, it's been one of overcoming, and it's been one of scaling, so that way we can continue being a relevant solution for those that are consumers of the product, and we're going to continue to do so. So at the heart of it, Altrua Health Share is a ministry that aims to bear each other's burdens so that we can fulfill the law of Christ. And the way that the health share does that is through sharing in each other's medical needs. And the way that the ministry does that is by being the hands and feet of Jesus Christ and getting out there in the communities and getting dirty and serving those that we're able to.
Josh, that story, I think, really puts a pin in the difference between big health and the business that they're in, and the ministry work and the helping of people that you guys do, which is why we're excited with Watchmen Action and the Watchmen Brief to be partnered with you. So guys, Josh, before I let you go, I want to make sure that people know how to get the information, and just a kind of a shameless plug on our site here. If you go to altruahealth.org/Watchmen, MEN, it's running along the bottom of your screen, altruahealth.org/Watchmen. You can get more information. You can actually get signed up for your own health share plan. And if you use the code FREEDOM100, you'll get an additional discount. So altruahealth.org/Watchmen, make sure to use the promo code FREEDOM100. So Josh, before we go, it's been a blessing and a pleasure to have you on. Parting words, anything else that people need to know before we jump off?
Support the Watchmen, support Altrua Health Share. Each one of these organizations are really deep into the fight on behalf of those that have the beliefs that we do. And with everything that seems to be closing in on us right now, as a nation and as believers. I think it's important that we all continue to band together. So I just encourage everybody to support these two organizations. Come and visit Altrua HealthShare. There is a plan on there for you that'll work. I encourage you to check out MyShare. You can build your own customized membership plan for you and your family that's going to evolve with you throughout the seasons and situations you go through in your life. And we look forward as Altrua HealthShare to continue into partnering with the Watchmen and RC.
Amen. Josh Sluter, Altrua HealthShare, thank you for joining us, sir.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too, guys. Thank you for joining us on the Watchmen Brief. For all things Watchmen Action, go to watchmenaction.org. Until next time, so long.